Well, first of all, maybe explain what that project, specifically what that project is, what you do.
That's a very good question, because the Yasuni-ITT, if those that don't know, it's in the Amazon of Ecuador. It's the place that has the highest biodiversity in the world because of its location, geographical location. This place in the Amazon is just in the intersection of the equatorial line and the Andes Mountains. That's why climate change has never affected this 1,000,000 hectares, like 10,000 square kilometers of high biodiversity, but also we have communities in voluntary isolation that live there, the Tagaeris and the Romenanis, and also we have oil underground. So we're going to keep the oil underground to save the biodiversity.
Right, which is a bold move, because presumably millions, possibly hundreds of millions of dollars of oil
correct.
under there.
Billions,
and as far as I know, billions of dollars. Not many countries have done that. Say, we have oil, let's just keep it under there to preserve. I mean, where did that decision come from?
Correct.
What are the repercussions? What are the consequences of making this decision?
Well, it's not easy. I think it's a very courageous decision from the President of Ecuador when he presented this initiative as an idea. It was in 2007 UN General Assembly at the UN, and he got a standing ovation because of its new idea of leaving oil underground in a place high biodiversity, but also because Ecuador is a developing country. It's a country that depends on oil. We are still depending on oil. We hope to move into alternative energy in the next 20 years, but it's still we depend on oil. So it was not an easy decision. But Ecuador has a history of taking care of the environment. We have the Galapagos Islands, as you know, they're well conserved. And also we have the only constitution, I think, in the world that gives the right to nature for the human being, to protect the human being. And the people of Ecuador, they believe in protecting the environment. We have 44 protected areas. Around 20% of the territory of Ecuador is protected areas. So that's why I think it has a history of believing in the environment in Ecuador.
I mean, having made this very bold statement, yes, I can imagine some of the oil companies who Ecuador has worked with in the past must have been a little taken aback.
Oh, very much.
And are probably still, I imagine, trying to get Ecuador to change. I mean, does Ecuador come under pressure, even having made this statement, to try to develop this oil at some future stage?
Yes, some they call us the stupid. How can you have oil and not exploit it? And what we say is that we are not against exploitation. Of course, Ecuador is still exploiting oil. They're depending on oil, but in specific places like this one, because it's such a fragility and because it's such a richness that we're giving to the world. It's not only for Ecuador, it's for the world. That's why we took the decision, until we have a lot of pressure. I mean, you cannot believe how many companies and from all over the world, internally in Ecuador also, there are people in Ecuador that are not with it. It's a minority, but it's a very vocal minority that speak a lot. And the majority are not for touching this place. But still, we're working very hard. We have to raise money for it. We are in the right direction. Now it's not just with governments that we are negotiating, but also we open it to the civil society. And it's incredible, Daniel. It's incredible how much the young generation of the world are pushing for this to help save the Yasuni for the humankind.
Right, so hopefully an advance, a model for other countries to follow.
Yes.
If it works for Ecuador, presumably other countries will look and say, well, it can be done.
Yeah, and not only, it's a very good precedent because not every country can do it. It's only countries that have high biodiversity and they take the decision of not taking the mineral or oil, whatever they have as richness. So I think it's a very well done. We have partnered with the United Nations Development Program. We have a trust fund now. It's a reality. The fund is now working very well. We have a board of directors. We have around 200 million that we have raised in the last 2 years, last year and this year. And as I said, we open it, and not only to the civil society and government, but also the private sector. We have companies that are coming to us that they believe in sustainable development, that they believe that this is a place of the most concentration of water. So, for example, Unilever or Coca-Cola, that believe in having, showing the world that they are doing something, they are saving this place, and they are still using water, but they are saving a place that it's so high in biodiversity and it protects the environment. So I think we are in the right direction. I think it's an example. It can be followed. Hopefully it can be followed. It's not easy for a country to take that decision. It has to be really believe in it, you know, and I don't think there are many countries. Nobody has yet done it. I think maybe 2 countries, one in South Central America, another in Africa, have asked the UNDP about it, how they did the fund.
Okay, lovely. I mean, you mentioned earlier that Ecuador is the only country in the world
No.
in which nature, at the moment, nature is protected, has a right, is protected by law.
Yeah,
and I've spoken to your colleagues at previous COPs about this, but I think it's as well to remind people what that means. Again, it's a model. I wonder how it works. Has it been effective? Explain, if you could, how this law works.
How it was done, the Constitution. You know, it's very interesting because when they did the last Constitution of 2008, It was implemented in 2009. It was the center of it. It was the self, the human being. It was how we support the human being over the capital, how we make a better living. It's called the well living. In Quechua, it's suma causai. That's the language of the indigenous, and how we can put it in the constitution in a way that will help everyone. And it was very well done, because in the first paragraph of the constitution it says we have to work for the future generations and the present generations, and in order to do that we have to live in harmony with nature. That's why we have to protect the earth, Mother Earth. So I think this is an example of how it's possible to work together with the people and believe in it and put the harmony of the earth with the human before the capital. Because whatever you are doing now, it's working, running to make money. And success is related to how much money you have, or how much you can acquire, or what you get is that success. But what is happening with the people? I mean, we're getting more sick, we're having more wars, we're having more disasters. And who is using the money? I mean, we're creating more problems in the world with the economic crisis and all what's going on. And it's a moment to reflect. I think this is an urgency. It's an urgency. After what happened in New York with Sandy, the huge hurricane, Sandy, I think this is a wake-up call. And they say when it happens in New York, then the people wake up. So let's hope that this will make this conference successful, better than the other ones, because of that, because of the urgency and the awareness that everybody should have.
Okay, that's great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bueno, si podemos repetir algunas cosas en español, no todo, pero algunas
sí.
preguntas. Más que nada, si nos puede explicar un poquito la región del proyecto y qué está sacrificando Ecuador para proteger esta zona de biodiversidad.
Y esa es una buena pregunta. ¿Qué está sacrificando? Muchísimo. Creo que para dejar el Yasuní intacto, el sacrificio más grande es del Ecuador, porque deja de percibir billones de dinero que puede sacar del petróleo, dejando en ese lugar intacto para las futuras generaciones. Esto no es para el Ecuador, es para la humanidad. Es un regalo que da el Ecuador a la humanidad, con una decisión muy valiente. ¿Por qué? Porque el Ecuador, como decía, cree en el cuidado ambiental. 20% del territorio ecuatoriano es protegido. Tenemos las Islas Galápagos, tenemos nuestra Amazonía, que es la única que no se ha tocado todavía. Tenemos los bosques primarios, que son tan necesarios para cuidar el ambiente. Y la Constitución del mundo, la única Constitución del mundo que da derechos a la naturaleza por el ser humano, por cuidar al ser humano, es la Constitución del Ecuador.